sure is to run detailed computer simulations, a process which could take months to perform. If the theory is right, then the idea that a terrorist plot must be behind the tragedy can finally be laid to rest. Benson now faces a new and disturbing mystery. Why did the pilot act in this way? Investigators believe they are close to uncovering the cause of the tragic crash of Flight 587. The flight data recorder shows that the co-pilot, Sten Molen, applied 5 rapid inputs to the aircraft's rudder pedals, which could have overstressed the tail fin, causing it to break off completely. Now the question is, why would he do such a thing? They listen again to the cockpit voice recorder. We're supposed to be 5 miles by the time we're airborne. One possible theory is wake turbulence. Wake turbulence is all too familiar to accident investigators. It's a region of spinning air left behind as a plane passes. These vortices can sometimes turn a following plane upside down. But the team quickly realized that this cannot be the cause of the crash. The turbulence was not strong enough to seriously affect a plane the size of the Airbus. The bigger the airplane, the less effect wake turbulence has on it. A300 is a pretty big airplane. Then comes evidence which changes everything. The investigation team interview Molen's friends and colleagues, and they discover a vital piece of information. A pilot and former colleague recalled an earlier trip with Molen. During an encounter with turbulence, he used the rudder aggressively, even though there was no apparent risk to the plane. The evidence is conclusive. Molen had reacted in the same way before. When those pilots came forward and told us about the first officer's propensity to overreact on the rudders, that was a eureka moment for us. But the revelations don't stop there. When questioned at the time, Molen said he had been trained to use the rudder in this way by American Airlines. If this is true, it raises serious concerns for Benson and the team. One would assume that if many pilots go through the same training program with some flaws in it, then a lot of pilots have wrong ideas about how to fly an airplane. With 712 planes in service with American Airlines, Benson must quickly establish where the truth lies. The airline confirms one of their programs does indeed teach pilots to use the rudder to recover from unusual situations, as seen in this training video. And if you don't put that rudder in, what's going to happen when you get to this portion of the roll? He's going to slice out just like that. Next, Benson looks at the other tools used to train the pilots, particularly the high-tech flight simulators. Here, pilots are taught to react to a range of emergencies, including wake turbulence. In one of those scenarios, Benson discovers that the pilots learned to use the rudder very aggressively. The flight simulator program had even been altered to encourage the use of the rudder, particularly when the plane was banking to the right or the left. Airbus themselves had already written to the airline saying this practice was a cause for concern. The classroom work told pilots that it was permissible to use the rudder to escape from unusual attitude situations, and perhaps more importantly in the simulator, they were taught to use the rudder very, very aggressively to recover from unusual attitudes. The finding causes controversy. At a public hearing, American Airlines claimed that Airbus had not explained there were limits to the use of the rudder. I didn't know you couldn't do that. You couldn't do what? Sorry. Be aggressive with the controls. The airline also claims that the rudder system on the aircraft was very sensitive, and that pilots might not be aware how much rudder they were really applying. The NTSB investigate and discover the rudder control system is highly sensitive. What's more, the controls of the plane become more sensitive as the plane increases speed. On the ground, the rudder pedal has to be depressed by 10 centimeters to get maximum deflection. But when flying at high speed, that distance reduces to just 4 centimeters. NTSB officials are shocked to find that this system is not explained in training manuals. There was an apparent gap between what the manufacturers knew about the rudder sensitivity of the airplane and what was filtering down to the folks that actually flew them. Then finally come the results from the analysis of Molin's 5 rudder inputs. They confirm what nobody really wants to believe, that it's indeed possible to tear the tail fin from an aircraft in flight by stamping violently on the foot pedals. Now Benson and the team can see exactly what happened to Flight 587. Step by step, they have pieced together the key events that led to the tragedy. 5 minutes to disaster. Flight 587 awaits clearance for takeoff as a Japanese 747 airliner takes off. 30 seconds later, Flight 587 is given a warning of wake turbulence. 2 minutes to disaster, Flight 587 takes off. Positive brake, here, please. 1 minute to disaster, 587 encounters turbulence for the first time. Sten Molin flies through it. 30 seconds to disaster, 587 hits a second, larger wave of turbulence. The plane is now banking to the left, reminding Molin of his simulator training. Not realizing how sensitive the rudder system becomes in flight, Molin stamps on the pedal, causing maximum rudder deflection. The plane swings violently to the right, placing enormous loads on the tail fin. Investigators believe that an astonished Molin thinks that the plane is reacting to the wake turbulence. He doesn't realize that his own use of the rudder causes the violent movement. Molin immediately slams the rudder pedal into the opposite position. The plane now swings violently back to the left, placing another enormous load on the tail. Both Molin and States believe the plane is somehow caught in the turbulence. What the hell are we into? What's stuck in it? Get out of it! And in a desperate attempt to get control, Molin applies another rudder input, this time to the right. Now, thoroughly disorientated, Molin again applies full rudder. 587 is now on the brink of disaster. Finally, on the 5th rudder input, all 6 lugs connecting the tail to the fuselage tear apart. The plane is now doomed. Terrified passengers and crew can have no idea what is happening. Huge G-forces rip both engines away. 106 seconds after takeoff, Flight 587 falls from the sky. 265 people are dead. Important lessons have been learned from the tragedy. Airbus have issued a bulletin reminding pilots how to use the rudder, and American Airlines have modified their training program. Together with the NTSB, the aviation industry has moved to ensure that such a terrible accident will never happen again.